This video will show you how to perform a face milling operation within Autodesk Fusion's manufacturing workspace as part of activity 234 CAM Strategy Practice Part 1. Within our data panel, we're going to open the data panel, and within our Fusion team, you'll be able to find the resources folder. The resources folder has an activity 234 CAM Model Strategy Part 1 folder that houses all of the models that we need. The easiest way to copy these models, these are already made for you, and that way we can focus on creating the toolpaths and generating the operations that we need for our particular activity. I'm going to select the first item, which will be the O3 facing student. I will scroll down, I'll hold the shift key on my keyboard and select the last item, which will be the drilling operation. On one of the files, we can right click and select copy. Within this operation, what you can do in order to get these files over to a folder that is usable by you, you can select the Sim2324 project file. And here you can click on your class that you're in and then on your folder to be able to select and choose copy. I already have these files copied over to a project that I'm using for demonstration, and so I'm going to move to that project right now. So the first file that I'm going to work with is going to be, once you have the files copied over to a folder that you can edit, I'm going to open the first file, which is facing student. I'm going to close my data panel, and I'm going to verify that my document settings are set to inches. If we need, we can always change the active units and to be able to select inch for what our active units are. I'm now going to change workspaces. Up here on design, I will select, and from the drop-down menu, I will now move over to the manufacturer workspace. From here, we're going to look at setting up the stock that we're going to use in order to mill out and do our facing operation. From the setup menu, I will choose setup. Here, just to kind of note that there are several kind of settings that we're going to maybe leave at their default because of some of our different milling operations don't really apply to it, but also we're using some material that's going to be pretty easy to mill and does not need a lot of industrial kind of settings or tooling or tool paths to be generated to make that happen. I'm going to go ahead and select the arrow to, like on machine. We can simulate with a machine if we prefer, but I'm going to select the arrow to collapse the menu to make this look a little bit easier to handle. Okay, not as many settings to look at when we do so. We are going to do an operation type milling. The other thing too is on any of these operations or any of the settings, we can leave our cursor on top of one of the options, and it will show what kind of options and give a little bit more information. We are doing a milling operation. Our orientation will be a model orientation. We're going to use a stock box point, and we're going to select that box point by going over to the model, and we're going to choose the little white dot right here on the bottom left corner of our block on the very top face. So again, we should see the Z-axis just like how you see on the screen, the Y-axis and the X-axis. From here on the setup, I'm going to move to the stock tab. The stock tab is going to utilize a relative size box, and we're going to select add stock to sides and top bottom. This setting allows us to add some stock, and if we want to do so. So you can see the actual block, and then in a light yellow kind of transparent material, you can see how much stock is being added. So we're offset here. For the sides, we're going to go ahead and make this 0 inches. And then for the top, we're going to add 0.125. So we're going to be removing 1/8 of an inch off of the top, and this is where we're going to get us down to our actual size. So the stock that we would end up picking or cutting out to rough size would be at a height of, or a Z height of 1.625. We want the final height to be at 1.5. So here you'll see the stock dimensions change based upon what values we've placed. I'm going to select post process. On the program name, I would select a good file name for this, most likely your last name, underscore, and then what operation this will be facing. Once we have that entered, I will select OK. And then from here, you'll see a green check mark shows up that all the parameters and items are selected in order to verify and have a valid setup for our particular operation. From our 2D panel, I will select the face operation. From here, we've already have loaded in our tool. We're going to select our tool from our PLTW tool library. The PLTW tool library we'll choose a 1/2 inch end mill. We want to, for a facing operation, we want a fairly large diameter end mill to take away a lot of material very quickly and efficiently. So I will select the T7, tool number 7, which is the 1/2 inch end mill. You will see a preview of what this looks like with a tool holder. I will select that option. A lot of the items here, like coolant, has been disabled, and a lot of the feed rates and speeds have already been determined based upon what kind of material, and then also what type of tool that we're working with. Here, if I zoom out, we'll see a preview of the end mill with the tool holder. And what we can do from here is, leaving everything at default, we're going to move over to the geometry tab. The first thing that it wants to find out is what are the stock contours, meaning what are kind of our boundaries that we need to stay in. I'm going to select the stock top on the outside edge, so that way it picks up the face contours. From here, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the heights tab. The heights tab has some different settings that we can take a look at. If we look at it from the front, we can see like where the height is and everything as such. On a retract height, for example, if I leave my cursor on top of that, it'll tell me and show me a little information about what that is. The retract height is how much does the tool pick back up off of the face of the material in order to have a safe kind of start to a tool path, or even a lot of times a traverse as it goes from area to area. So as far as clearance height, retract height, and feed height, we're going to go ahead and collapse these menus because we're going to keep these at the default. As far as the top height, we're going to choose stock top from the list, and we're going to have an offset of 0. In terms of bottom height, we're going to do the same thing, stock top. And when you take a look at this, you're going to see right now, if they're both set at 0, you're going to see that these two, the light blue, which is the top, and the dark blue is the bottom, and they're right at the same level. Well, the bottom height, what we want to look at is, if we leave our cursor on there, is how far down are we cutting into this block. So I'm going to end up inputting -0.125 inches. And now we can see what our preview looks like of how far down that this bottom height will look at. Here's the top. Now again, we're not seeing that necessarily the extra 1/8 of an inch being added in, but we can see now that the bottom is right on top of our block, which is where we want the bottom of our end mill to reach. I'm going to move over to the passes tab. Most of these items will stay at their default, except for the step over. The step over is the horizontal distance between passes. So if you kind of think about this is like when you mow a lawn. It's like how much of the lawn are you going to remow, or that you kind of make sure to get. And so we're going to do about a 50% of the tool diameter. We use the 1/2 inch end mill. We're going to make the step over, just to be conservative, 50% or 0.25. And from here, we're going to keep the direction set at both ways. Linking tab, all of these will be set at their defaults. So I can go ahead and select OK. And now here's what will happen. I'll be able to see now a preview of the toolpath. So, and you can always screenshot and be able to show that. If I want to see this actual operation of what the mill would do, I can go up here to Actions and select Simulate. In some of the information here, we do have display. So they will have some things like, is the tool being shown? Is the toolpath being shown? Like, what are the different points and things like that? And what kind of toolpath we have? And then the stock. And the one option that you may not have checked is the regenerate on rewind. So, because usually what will happen is if we run this, it will cut away that top portion. And if we try to rerun it, it will not regenerate. So we want it to regenerate, and then also stop on collision. So if the tool runs into anything, it will actually stop. So it's pretty cool settings that we can work with here in display. Under info, they will give some different information like spindle speed, what are some of the X, Y, Z positions, as well as the type of operations that are being done. On the statistics tab, this has some information like the machining time, how much distance, and how many operations and tool changes are we simulating here. The simulation tools are down here at the bottom. I can press the play button to run the simulation. The speed can be controlled by the slider down at the bottom. I can always go to the beginning of the toolpath, press the play button. Notice how slow that is turning. Even as this is working, I can go also turn this up or down depending on how fast or how slow that I want to see this operation. And anytime I press the play button with that regenerate on, we are seeing that stock, extra stock that were being added to the top to be removed. So this will now, and we're finished, we can select exit simulation. This completes our tutorial on doing face milling in Fusion 360.